What the
This is the PlayStation 5, the fifth of the iconic PlayStation lineage. Since the release of the original PlayStation in 1994, the PlayStation brand has done extraordinarily well. Even despite the fact the PS3 had a rough launch, it turned things around, and while it's still Sony's worst selling home console, it still sold over 80 million units. And currently, Sony's one focus is the PlayStation 5.
However, unfortunately, this thing isn't doing great. I mean, it's doing fine commercially. It's already sold over 50 million units, and I think it's fair to expect it to hit over 100 million units by the time the PS6 rolls around. However, critically, this thing has recently started to really take it in, and I'd like to add to that.
Now, I want the PS5 to do better, but to really talk about what I think it needs to do better, I have to talk about what it's already doing wrong.
So, let's go over the 7 sins of the PS5. 7 issues with the PS5 that I believe are not just holding back the console, but also the PlayStation brand as a whole.
Now, of course, the PS5 has games, but it also kinda doesn't. So what I and many others mean by no games is a lack of exclusives. Now, of course, there are plenty of great PlayStation exclusives on the PS5, but some of them also released on the PS4. Spider-Man Miles Morales, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7. These are big profile blockbuster games, and yet you can still play them perfectly fine on a normal PS4. But another chunk of the PS5 exclusives are PS4 remasters. Spider-Man Remastered, The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Hell, the big console exclusive at launch was Demon's Souls, a remake of a damn PS3 game.
So yes, the PS5 has games, but they're old games or games that you can already run perfectly fine on a run-of-the-mill PS4.
But don't fret, there are a handful of actual brand new exclusives: Spider-Man 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth, and more coming with Rise of the Ronin and Wolverine. A good batch of games with some quality stuff coming, but games to buy a console for?
That kind of stuff really comes down to subjectivity, but a lot of people don't really see much excitement in these exclusives, as Spider-Man, Ratchet & Clank, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Horizon, all good games, but games that they could already play on a PS4. But in the PS5's defense,
by the 3-year mark of the PS4 in 2016, the PS4 had Infamous Second Son, Bloodborne, Uncharted 4, and Ratchet & Clank. But from 2017 onward, there was Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, God of War, Death Stranding, The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, plus all the games that were also released on the PS5. So there's still time for the PS5 to grow its library of exclusives, and I think Rise of the Ronin and Wolverine are definitely very promising.
But that still doesn't change one major issue with these exclusives: the basis of the NextGen experience.
Spot the difference. While the PS5 has solid exclusives, most of them are sequels to PS4 games. Thusly, it's fair that they look similar, but this does not feel like a whole new generation of gaming. Spider-Man 2 was an absolute blast, a really solid follow-up to Spider-Man and Miles Morales. However, not often did I feel like, yeah, this is only possible on the PS5. The only time I really felt that was when I was swinging around super fast, using the web wings and momentum to just completely zoom across the city. It feels shockingly fast. The console is processing it better than I even can. I don't think this was possible on the PS4. Doesn't mean this wasn't. Yeah, like the original, a lot of the gameplay comes down to punching bad guys. And while they added various new mechanics to really set it apart and improve on the earlier games, that's all it really does, set apart and improve on the earlier games, but does not necessarily feel like this wasn't possible on the PS4.
And that also goes for the other big current gen game I played, Jedi Survivor.
I also had a great time with this. Regardless of how I didn't really like the story, the gameplay was a blast and improved and expanded on Fallen Order, but does not feel like it couldn't run on PS4.
It just goes to show that this issue isn't just an issue with Sony, it's just gaming as a whole these days. But Sony isn't really doing much to change that.
I've also dabbled in other exclusives. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, awesome game, and I would love to give my full attention to this one day. And while I have not played the PS4 Ratchet & Clank, again, this doesn't really feel like it's only possible on the PS5, which extends to Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth. It's fun and a neat remake of the classic, but this is literally part 2 of a 3-part remake, and yep, it looks and plays just like part 1. but it's a PS5 exclusive because, oh, well, it's too late to put new games on the PS4.
I get it, and I'm sure some of these games started life as PS4 games, but just became PS5 exclusives to help sell the console. But that doesn't change the fact that these games don't feel like the big next-gen experiences they should be. But now, on to the next sin, a fairly recent one, less for more.
It's pretty much a tradition for PlayStation consoles that after a few years they receive a slim redesign, made to be smaller and cheaper. It's mainly for those who are holding out on the system, not necessarily in a rush and waiting for it to be cheaper, which with the PS5 starting at $400 and not really having many games to get it for, many were definitely fine with sitting out for a few years. And with Spider-Man 2, the biggest game releasing for the PS5 in fall of 2023 coming in hot, it seemed only natural for them to introduce the PS5 Slim in fall of 2023, and they did so.
Which also includes f***ing it up.
So much like how the system launched with a disc-based and digital-only model, the Slim launched as both as well. And this is a fine redesign. It's a fair bit smaller, and while I'm not a big fan of how the disc drive just juts out, it looks fine. However, something awesome about the digital version is that you can actually get a disc drive for it and turn it into a disc-based system, which is awesome.
Okay, well it is $80, but I mean, it's still great to have that option.
Also, the vertical stand that allows you to stand the console up as shown in every promo photo, it's sold separately too for $30.
Okay, well, I mean, that's kind of stupid.
Oh, but oh well, it's a slim model, it must be cheaper. The PlayStation 5 Slim disc-based version is still $500. That is incredibly stupid. That just kinda undermines the point of a slim model. It's about more than just being smaller, it's also about giving people a more affordable entryway into the PS5. But hey, at least the digital edition is no longer $400, it's $450.
How do you f*** it up so bad? A slim redesign costing more than the original. What year are we living in?
It feels like reverse psychology. Like, why buy a digital slim for $450 when you can pay $50 more for a disc-based console? Because what is the point of this? This is one of the most stupidest and unappealing consoles, purely for the price alone. It just baffles me to no end. It's something that I've been questioning ever since it was announced, and I still question why nobody talks about it. Like, hello? $450 for a smaller redesign of a console that usually costs $400? Just, who owns this thing?
Okay. In my opinion, this is where the issues with the PS5 peak. The PS5 Slim Digital is, in my opinion, one of the worst deals in all of gaming, and single-handedly makes me despise this redesign with every fiber of my being. Good going, Sony! Now, on to the next sin, the Sony greed.
This is pretty much a continuation of a lot of what I was talking about with the Slim. A disc drive sold separately for $80, the vertical stand that allows you to display the console as it's shown in advertisements sold separately for $30. It's absolutely ridiculous as well, so how about more overpricing? How about the DualSense Edge controller? DualSense Edge?
Don't get any ideas.
The DualSense Edge is the PS5's premium controller. It adds a handful of fine features, and it's $200. The DualSense is already a $70 controller, and it's a great one at that. I love this controller, it feels great, its new gimmicks are really cool, and it's just a really nice controller to use. But the DualSense Edge does not seem to add, like, anything of value, especially since the DualSense is already an incredible controller. This is one of my favorite controllers. Why would I spend $130 more for a slightly better version of something I already think is immaculate? Sony also released wireless earbuds for the PS5, and they do what wireless earbuds do. Be fucking expensive. $200 for earbuds. Not something new, but that doesn't mean this also isn't super fucking stupid. A $200 controller or $200 earbuds. Pick your poison. Now at face value, the earbuds may seem odd. Like PS5 earbuds? Don't you usually play your PS5 at home on a TV? Yes, but they also recently released the PS Portal,
which I'll give the shit it deserves.
However, the PS Portal is only compatible with these wireless earbuds. You can use wired earbuds and headphones, but if you want to go wireless with the Portal, $200 please. And speaking of all this, while doing some research on this, I discovered that Sony has recently been sued for overpricing. Not straight to consumers, but rather to developers and publishers. When something is sold on the PlayStation Store, 30% of it goes to Sony, which is fucking ridiculous. This has also led publishers to raise prices on their games on the PS Store so they can make more money, so ultimately, consumers pay more because Sony just wants that green.
We can't talk about Sony and overpricing without talking about the fifth sin, what am I paying for again?
PS Plus is Sony's subscription service that also covers online play. It was restructured a few years ago and it is split into 3 tiers. First up is Essential, which is $10 a month. With it, you get online play, cloud saves, 3 free games a month, and some discounts on the PS Store. And people say Switch Online isn't worth it. So, online play is of course the biggest appeal, good for it, but also cloud saves. Listen, they're convenient, but really only when you're transferring saves to a new console. Once you've done that, I never use cloud saves on PS5 because I only have one PS5. I never use it. I'm so glad I'm paying for this. Well, you do get access to 3 free games every month. Say it with me now.
Who f***ing cares?
Moving up a tier to Extra, for $15 a month, you get access to a library of around 400 PS4 and PS5 games you can download to your console and play for free, which is where the value lies. It's meant to trick you and make you go, wow, $15 a month for all these great games? Because there are a ton of awesome games on PS Plus, but the thing is, how many of them a month do you play? Now, you can very much spend $15 a month and just let this be your PS5 library, and it works as that. There's a lot of stuff here, but for the common man, I think we already have enough games in our backlog as it is, so there isn't really a ton of value here. But then there's Premium for $3 more, which beefs up the library to add PS1, 2, PSP, and PS3 games. The PS3 games can only be played through streaming, and you can also stream select games, which is really nice. That's why I played a bit of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and it worked great. The game looked and ran flawlessly, it didn't feel like it was being streamed at all. Same with the PS3 games. It's weird how they're streamable only, like, I get it, the PS3 is a wacky console, but what about these multiplats? You're telling me you can't make them downloadable too? You can also play demos for select games, which is how I tried out Baldur's Gate 3 and went.
Well, yeah, it's a good game, but I'm in no rush to buy it.
And you also get access to Sony Pictures Catalog, Sony's streaming service for Sony movies. Well, hell yeah, I want to watch Morbius. Why? So with PS Plus Premium, you get access to a select group of movies on Sony Pictures Catalog. You may wonder, any good movies? To which I say the only movie here I have any affinity for is Godzilla Tokyo SOS, aka no, all there is a bunch of crap. Any good movies you may want to see can either be rent or bought. Or you can just watch it on Netflix. Yeah, this is not lasting long. Well, that's PS Plus. Its value is very much subjective. $10 for the cheapest tier is ridiculous. For $10 more, you can get a year's worth of normal Switch Online with way more benefits. And hey, Essential for a year is $80. Switch Online expansion is $50 with, again, way more.
PS Plus is overpriced and just not worth it. I had a premium subscription for a couple months, however I realized I'm really not playing any of the games that you get with it. So it looks like a good deal, but it's meant to trick you. These days I really just get Essential by month. If someone goes, hey, you want to play this game online? I'll just get a month of Essential and just have Essential for that month. Then the next month, if they don't say the same thing, I just don't renew it. So that way, I still save money on PS Plus, but occasionally get it. Because the thought of paying more a month for extra and premium, that makes me shudder. But now, let's move on to the next sin, PS5 X Wii U.
The PS Portal is a new accessory for the PS5 that's a handheld companion. Like how it was with the Steam Deck, many people claim that this would be the Switch killer. The Switch is the 3rd best-selling console of all time. The only thing that can kill the Switch is a successor. Anyways, the PS Portal, design-wise, dumb. Notice how the Joy-Cons are designed to feel natural with the tablet while still housing all the inputs you'll find on a regular controller? The Portal said f that and shoved a tablet in between the DualSense. The PS Portal is pretty much a Wii U gamepad for the PS5. You can stream your gameplay from your PS5 to the Portal, which has its use. Whether someone else wants to use the TV or you want to play in bed, the Portal has its use and you can take it out in public, you just have to leave your PS5 on at home. Just bring a Switch.
I get the appeal of the Portal. I mean, I'm a Nintendo fan for crying out loud. Playing these massive games portably is magical. But I don't know about everyone else, but I prefer to play big console games at home on a TV instead of on the go with a DualSense with a screen in the middle.
And the Switch can still provide big console games for the same price as the Portal at $200, and probably with better battery life. I get the Portal is not a huge issue, but I also think it's kinda dumb in a few ways, so sure, here's a sin.
And now, on to the final sin, possibly the most egregious. Sony, what the f*** is this? Spoilers for the ending of Spider-Man 2 also, I guess.
As I said, I like Spider-Man 2, but I very much have some nitpicks with it. Starting with a dead horse, but I haven't gotten my kick in. Towards the end of Spider-Man 2, Miles makes a new suit, and yeah, many don't like it. It just looks lame, which, hey, I don't think is a huge issue. Many of the bonus suits in these Spider-Man games are super stupid looking, and I like that. They're fun as just silly little side suits, but the thing is, this suit is, kinda here to stay. While you can change the suit to his normal suit for the last few missions, you're forced to play the final mission with this suit, which is just so stupid. Miles' normal suit is already sublime, one of my favorite spider suits. Mainly black with some red highlights, it looks incredible and already sets him apart from Peter enough. And while this suit does that more so, it just doesn't look great.
Okay, I didn't like the suit that no one else liked. Shocker. But I did have more issues with Spider-Man 2, mainly with the missing features.
Now these have recently been added in, being able to change the time of day, replay missions, and swap symbiote tendril colors. I like how robust changing the time of day is. You can also change the weather a bit to make it raining. I really love that. But why the hell wasn't all this available at launch? Why did it take months for the ability to replay missions be added into the game? And I absolutely adore swinging around at night, yet that wasn't added in until this update as well. Why? It was just weird for this high-profile $70 release. It was missing these features that are small, yes, but also heavily requested due to the fact that they were missing. It may not be as big of an issue, but it's still an issue regardless.
However, I can't hide behind this charade forever. I love the PS5. It has an admittingly small library of exclusives, but still really solid ones. However, it's hard to not speak against this console. This is supposed to be the big next generation of PlayStation, and yet it feels more like a PS4 Pro. And now I like it as that. I mean, being able to play every PS4 game plus its library of new games, it's a really great PlayStation console, but as the big next generation of gaming, this really isn't it. But also defend this big ass fucker to some extent. To be fair, we're really only halfway through its life, and the amount of great games that the PS4 got after its halfway point, I think the PS5 has a solid library of exclusives incoming. Now, am I saying that because I genuinely believe that, or am I saying that because I spent $500 on this console?